Welcome to the Displaced Diehards podcast, recorded at 2420 Studios in Owensboro, Kentucky. Download a new episode of the podcast every Friday at displacedDiehards.com. Follow us on Twitter at Diehards Podcast. You can also listen to the podcast on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. And as always, watch us Saturday at 10 p.m. on Time Warner, Channel 72. Yippee-ki-yay.
Displaced Diehards.
Displaced Diehards.
I am a Displaced Diehard.
I am a Displaced Diehard.
We are Displaced Diehards.
Welcome to episode number 20 of the Displaced Diehards NFL podcast, right here in Owensboro, Kentucky at the 2420 Studios. Today we're going to be playing the part of the Hart Foundation. I'll be the hitman, Stephen A. Turner, alongside my tag team partner, Brandon the Anvil Ward.
Yeah, baby.
Behind the big boards, we'll have the British Bulldog, Il Bill Hardesty, and my brother, the executive producer of the television show, Owen Hart Turner.
Sound like you might be playing the part of the Blue Blazer.
No, we're sorry.
Ouch.
We're sorry, Brett. But no, if you follow us, you can also check us out on Monday nights on 102.7 The Game, right here in Owensboro. Hit it up on your radio dial. You can also Google 102.7 The Game if you're not in the Owensboro area to listen to us live online at 6:30 every Monday night. We'll be leading you into the Monday Night Football game every week.
And he made his debut this week on the radio show.
It's an honor.
Kenny the Snake Stabler made his debut. He was live on ESPN Radio on the airways Monday night. What an honor that was for the Displaced Diehards. And right now we're going to kick it to him for hashtag Ask the Snake. Woo!
Welcome once again to everybody's favorite segment right here on the Diehards podcast. It's hashtag Ask the Snake, baby. Right here, fresh off my radio debut last night, I'm a superstar in the making on the radio broadcast. But today, I got a special guest. I heard him on the podcast last week. He was hanging out with my boy Kermit, and I'm bringing him in, the foul-mouthed ref, Roy Ellison.
Yeah, motherfucker.
He's going to ask me some Twitter questions, so let's get right to it.
At motherfucking Broly's dad 72 wants to know what coach or offensive system fits the Snake the best, motherfucker.
Well, obviously, the answer to that question is Coach Madden. Whatever system he ran got the job done, baby, and we won a Super Bowl. But if you have to go modern day, I don't think any one coach can really rein in the Snake. I mean, I can run any system. I'm not these prima donna quarterbacks that are overpaid out there today. You just give me a playbook, I'll go sit in a room for 20 minutes with a cold Milwaukee's best, baby, and I'll roll right out on the field and be the best quarterback in the league, because that's how the Snake rolls, baby.
Yeah, motherfucker.
This guy brings soul to the program. What do you got, Roy?
Twitter, motherfucker. At Bow, the motherfucking number 2, the King 6, wants to know, since the Patriots were accused of spying, have you ever been spied on professionally?
Well, hell no, nobody tried to spy on the Oakland Raiders practice. We had guys on the team that would shank people for that. But you know, off the football field, everybody tried to spy on the Snake. I'm a superstar. I'm a damn legend. People be coming to the Snake's house, looking in his window. We got women looking in the window. Hell, every now and then we got men trying to take a peek at the Snake. But you know, every now and then I see a little pretty girl outside my window. I strike a little pose for them, have a little bit of fun with it. You never know what you can get out there on the street with these freaks. Take a little shower with the Snake.
Scrub-a-dub-dub, motherfucker.
That's right, scrub-a-dub-dub. Or, watch me take a shit.
Spray something, motherfucker.
Move on to the next question. Let's go.
Finally, at motherfucking Anti-Hero 1986 wants to know, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop, motherfucker?
Well, that's a hell of a question. Because, for example, the other night the Snake was down at the Busybody Lounge, baby, and he picked up a stripper named Tootsie Roll. And I brought her home, and I've been licking on her for days, and I still ain't got to the center of that, if you know what I'm saying, baby.
Chocolate middle, motherfucker.
That's about all the time I got for this week. I'd like to thank the foul-mouthed referee, Roy Ellison, for joining me.
Yeah, motherfucker.
He's welcome back anytime. He's been the best damn...
Delay a game, motherfucker.
The Snake got a little tongue-tied, baby. Come on. He's been the best damn co-host I've had all season. Thanks, Dirty Kermit, for introducing me to this fella. Hit me up on Twitter at I'm the Snake, baby. Hashtag Ask the Snake. Till next time, see you, bitches.
Yeah, motherfucker.
That was hashtag Ask the Snake, the number one segment on the podcast, if you ask me.
That's right. The best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. Kenny the Snake.
Moving on to, I know my co-host here is best there is, best there was, best there ever will be team, the Green Bay Packers.
How's that going for you, Packers fans?
As they took on the Detroit Lions and got stomped out 40-10.
Yeah, that made my Thanksgiving day just delightful. Turkey in the belly and a Green Bay Packer ass whooping. You just really can't get any better than that.
Had some shredded cheese on top of the turkey
That's
for
right.
Thanksgiving
How's that
dinner.
Ted Thompson GM thing working out? He built that roster so well. And they're just loaded in Green Bay with talent. This guy picks up guys off the street, plugs them in. They're just a solid football. How many wins they have without Aaron Rodgers?
No, what?
Scratching my head on that one.
About the same as they have with Brett Favre.
And I heard that, Aaron went to the doctor today, and he's going to be out for a little bit longer than they thought.
Yeah, that's the big news coming out of Green Bay is that he still isn't cleared to play. And it looked like this week was the one that everybody had targeted, team included, Aaron Rodgers included, that he was going to come back and make that playoff run that everybody's been saying, even here on the podcast, that we think they're still in it for the division as long as Aaron comes back when they thought that he was going to, and now he's not.
Yeah, that opens the door wide open for Detroit. I mean, at this point, Detroit can just be Detroit probably and go ahead and win the division at 9-7, like they're probably going to do if Aaron Rodgers doesn't return. There's not a whole lot to take from this game except Detroit played like Detroit. They in the first half of this game, Green Bay did absolutely nothing, and it was still a ball game at halftime. And then finally, they cleaned it up a little bit in the second half and stepped on the throats. And there's nothing I like to see more than Green Bay getting their throats stepped on. So that's always fun.
Yeah, Detroit's always the tale of two teams. You got the good Detroit and bad Detroit. You had bad Detroit the first half, good Detroit the second half. I hope to see a bad Detroit team all game next week because
I wouldn't be surprised
because they're playing my Eagles.
Yeah, let's go ahead and move on. Pittsburgh and Baltimore, and I'll tell you what, these two teams' records may not show it, but every year when these two teams hook up, I'll text Denver Broncos correspondent Aaron Day because we love watching these type of games. I said, this is a man's game, and I didn't really expect it the way these two teams have played up to this point, but man, this was a man's game. It lived up to the hype.
Whenever these two teams meet on the field, the adrenaline rush just takes over and old school football comes back. I mean, those plays at the end of the game whenever Le'Veon Bell got knocked out, his helmet got knocked about 7 feet away from him. I mean, that's real old school football. It was a joy to watch.
It always is. This is one of my favorite matchups across the NFL in any year. And I, to be honest with you, this one shocked me because I did not expect the two teams to live up to the hype. Mike Tomlin on the sidelines there trying to do a little trick trip there on the long run by Jacoby Jones, but
he must have heard Joe Flacco's idea last year in the Super Bowl when Flacco said he would have done the same thing if the Super Bowl was on the line. So I guess Tomlin
take the 15.
Tried to give him some of his own medicine there.
I thought it was funny myself.
I heard they might lose a draft pick for that.
Yeah, that's a little crazy. I mean,
that's like Spygate territory.
Yeah, that's a little crazy. Let's hold that down. Maybe give him a warning if it happens again, then I can understand it. But yeah, Baltimore picked up a huge win in this one, and they're right there now, looking for that 6th seed. They're doing what Super Bowl champion type teams do, and they're trying to find a way to get in. I mean, you didn't expect this team to make the kind of run they made last year, so this team could be dangerous with playoff experience and Super Bowl experience under their belt if they can find a way to sneak in the playoffs.
I think the biggest thing they're concerned with right now is Dennis Pitta getting back. If they get him back, then you've got a whole different set of offensive weapons for Joe Flacco because you shift what the defense is playing. Their one cornerback goes to a different receiver and then starts opening up for other guys that are struggling right now.
Yeah,
Torrey Smith has been way less of a player than he should be, and I think it's from Dennis Pitta.
Yeah, he doesn't have any help. I mean, when a defensive coordinator sets down the game plan for Baltimore, with their offensive line being as bad as it is, you can almost stop the run just with a 7-man front. You just concentrate all your attention on Torrey Smith, and that's just not helping the Baltimore Ravens offense. They need another weapon badly in this offense.
I know Ray Rice fantasy owners are hoping that's the reason that Ray Rice hasn't been able to get off the schneid in fantasy football either, other than that one week against the Bears. He couldn't stop anybody. But hopefully whenever Dennis Pitta comes back for Ray Rice fantasy owners, you'll start to see Ray Rice back.
Yeah, that would be a big advantage. And Pittsburgh on the other side of the ball, they're playing about as well as they can right now. It is what it is. They're in transition in Pittsburgh, and they're hanging in there, but they just can't quite get over the hump. Had they won this game, they'd be right there in the playoff jam there in the AFC.
I think the loss of Mike Wallace has actually came back to bite them.
It really has.
I don't think Mike Wallace has affected the Dolphins nearly as much as he positively affected the Steelers. And you see that they don't have that big play guy anymore. Antonio Brown, who's the lead, who went into the league leading receptions in the league, but I mean he's not that big play guy that can get you a 60-yard touchdown at a drop of a pin like Mike Wallace could.
Yeah, well, you notice when Bell came into this offense, that their team completely changed. That's Pittsburgh Steelers football. Just run the ball, hit them deep with the big play with Antonio Brown, which, like you commented on, is a little less impactful than what Mike Wallace gave the team. But
Heath Miller's been non-existent with Mike Wallace not around too.
Yeah, and Heath Miller's getting up there, and he's got a lot of wear on those tires, but he's always usually good for 5 or 6 touchdowns for this team. But
speaking of non-existent, let's go ahead and move it on now to the Jags versus the Browns game, and a game that most NFL fans wish didn't exist. As the Jags picked up the win here, 32-28.
Yeah, what do you take from this game is Brandon Whedon came in and I thought he played fairly well, but I mean we're talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars who are all of a sudden coming on out of nowhere. Chad Henne led Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm trying to tell you all off season they were dangerous.
Chad Henne and Cecil Shorts.
That's right, and very good friends of the program here. Cecil Shorts had a pretty good game, and a guy you got to comment about the Jacksonville Jaguars flying under the radar in a lot of circles is Maurice Jones-Drew. I know the guy is not getting a lot of respect around the league, and if I didn't have him on my fantasy team, I probably wouldn't notice. But he's putting up solid numbers for Maurice Jones-Drew. A lot of people thought that guy was done, and if you got him on your fantasy team, he's scoring about anywhere from 15 to 22 points a week for the past 5 or 6 weeks. So
as he continues to bring this up, as he tried to trade him in his fantasy league,
where's Marcus Colston at there?
All the previous 3 weeks of the season, and nobody would pick up on it.
Yeah, I wish because he's just sitting on my bench collecting dust. I need another wide receiver, as if I didn't get enough from Gordon and Decker this week with 99 points. But the thing you take away from this game is Jacksonville is starting to play better. And I'm happy for Gus Bradley. I think he's a good I think he's going to be a good head coach. I like the guy. It's just he hasn't had a whole lot to work with in Jacksonville, and hopefully they can get things turned around there.
Especially with Blackman being suspended the rest of the season. That was the one actual playmaker they had. And I mean, they had nobody at quarterback. Blaine Gabbert, who they wasted a first-round pick, is a bust. I think they're ready to move on from him. Henny's just a journeyman quarterback. He's just what he is.
Yeah.
MJD's basically carrying that offense on his back and getting it done. On the other side, I think what I took from it is Josh Gordon is proving that he's the number one wide receiver, and I think the Browns are going to try to trade him and pick up a bunch of draft picks to replenish the rest of their offense.
The Browns, that would be a Cleveland Browns type of move. I mean, I really don't know that I would disagree with it, but I mean, they already have 2 first-round picks, so how much more picks do you need? It's time to start making these picks count if you're Cleveland. You've been picking at the top of the draft for years. So let's try to hold on to some of our playmakers like Josh Gordon maybe and maybe try to build a team around him. I don't know how many, like I said, I don't know how many picks you actually need, but I know you've had a lot at the top of the draft when you're Cleveland, and they've struck out a lot in the draft. So the main thing for Cleveland is not only to get the picks, but to use them wisely because these guys just aren't panning out. I mean, you got Brandon Whedon out there. You spent a first-round pick on him.
Maybe you shouldn't draft a 45-year-old rookie quarterback.
Yeah, you got a guy who's already ready for retirement after 2 years because of his age.
Thankfully, thanks to his play, he is about to be in retirement.
That's right. They're about to put him in retirement. But, yeah, I mean, it's a shame because the Browns have some of the best fans in football. And
great defense to watch, too.
They are. I mean, Joe Hayden, one of the best corners. They got Joe Thomas, one of the best offensive linemen. You got Josh Gordon, one of the best wide receivers. You have a foundation, and there's not that much difference. We've said it all along. There's not that much difference between winning and losing in the NFL. So if the Browns can hit on a couple of their top picks and find somebody to play quarterback, which they haven't had since Bernie Kosar, then maybe they'll be successful.
Speaking of Bernie Kosar, we're going to go ahead and get his thoughts on the game now. Kick it to Drunk Bernie in the dumpster of Golden Corral.
Oh, boy.
This is Bernie Kosar for Displaced Diehards NFL podcast. And I want to know if you got any more of that Narcan you shot me up with last week. That chemically induced tolerance break did wonders in making that cheap-ass smack I get do more than just make my eyeballs sore. I actually got to sniff a dragon's farts for the first time in a long time. So you let me know, because I could get you all the breaded popcorn shrimp you can eat, with or without white chocolate and ketchup, if you just give me a vial of that stuff. But I guess you want me to talk about the Cleveland Browns and how they lost to the Jags. But you know what? I'm not going to, because nobody gives a shit. Fire the coaches. Trade all the players. Who knows? Maybe we'll get a whole mess of first-round picks like we got for bench mode Richardson. Then, in 3 years, all those draft picks will have been busts and will still suck. You know it has to take the wind out of a rookie to get drafted to Cleveland. You put in all that work and effort for almost your whole life, and you get picked up by the fucking Browns. People wonder why I have the chemical dependencies that I do. You're pretty much doomed to a career of mediocrity. The best you could hope for is to be decent enough to get traded to a real team. And this week, we get the honor of getting stomped out by the Patriots. Have you seen that scene in American History X where he makes the guy bite the curb? Yeah, like that, but with touchdowns. So, unless you guys show up with that Narcan shit, don't be sniffing around my dumpster next week. And I'm Bernie Kosar saying, don't do drugs. So there'll be more for me.
Thank you, Drunk Bernie, for your report on the Browns. We got to get stronger in Arcane.
Oh, man. You might need a damn horse tranquilizer for Bernie.
At this point, that's probably a recreational drug for Drunk Bernie.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Going to move it on now to the Titans versus the Colts as Ill Bill's Tennessee Titans go into Indianapolis and come home with the loss, 22-14.
Titans made me want to smash my head into the wall watching this team turning the ball over.
That's coming from a Vikings fan.
Yeah, after this week's game, I can't really say much. But, no, Tennessee has had the Colts beat twice. And if you look at those two losses, that could be the difference between winning this division. The Colts aren't playing good football. Those two wins would put Tennessee not only a game back, but they would give them the tiebreaker. So if they were to even up with the Colts record-wise,
being a half game back, basically.
Right, really, right, exactly. And you look at the Ryan Fitzpatrick, and he does some things well, but man, he's a turnover machine. I mean, if Jake Locker hadn't got hurt for this team and continued to play turnover-free football, I think the Tennessee Titans could very easily be representing the AFC South right there in the AFC in the playoffs. And the Colts, since Reggie Wayne's gone down, look like a different football team. We say it every week. Yeah,
both of these teams are struggling. I think it's from those two injuries that you mentioned. Jake Locker getting it whenever he went down with the hip. He looked like he was taking over and actually becoming the leader on offense for this team. And they were playing how Tennessee had designed to play football coming into the season. And then once they went to Fitzpatrick, where he put you in bad situations, that didn't work anymore. Ill Bill actually brought up a point. They either use CJ2K either too much or not enough. They never figure out the right amount to use CJ2K.
No. It's frustrating. And I'm not even a Titans fan, but it's frustrating just to watch this team. I mean, it's a head scratcher. I don't know what they're doing out there. You got CJ2K, taking over the game in the first quarter, and you may not see him again until the third quarter.
Yeah, let's get Sean Green in there because he puts up numbers.
And we commented on that while we were watching it, and then in the next week, CJ2K might have 8 carries for 3 yards in the first quarter, but they continue to pound the rock with him throughout the second and third quarter. So it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, when your offense is as sluggish as it has been since Jake Locker's out, you've got to figure out a way to get that playmaker into the game more. I mean, they had a plethora of wide receivers. Nate Washington had a really good rapport with Jake Locker, and now the passing game for the Titans has basically went down to little short possession receivers like Kendall Wright and Justin Hunter.
Yeah, on the other side of the ball, we can't talk about the Colts without highlighting our good friend Beast Mode, who is now bench mode. First-round pick from Jim Irsay.
2 yards a carry.
Has been benched for Donald Brown, of all people.
Who the Colts have been trying to avoid being their starting running back for literally like 6 years now.
They don't want him. They just don't want him to be their starter, but they don't want 2.1 average carry Trent Richardson.
They don't want
in there
beast
either.
mode average.
No, they don't. They sure don't. So, those kind of moves are going to end up coming back to haunt the Colts. Also, I'd like to point out that their offensive line looks terrible at this point in the season, and Jim Irsay dropped a boatload of cash on some questionable free agents there. I just have to believe that some of these asshole-like decisions of Jim Irsay are finally going to start coming back to haunt the Colts after a while. I mean, you got Andrew Luck, but he's still a young quarterback. I mean, you can't just say, well, we have Andrew Luck. It's like an Aaron Rodgers situation where you can just depend on him to cover up all your misgivings. You got to think at some point Andrew Luck's going to need a little bit of help, and these questionable moves by Irsay, I hope they come back to bite him because he that's what he deserves.
Yeah, and the Colts don't have it right now. Once Reggie Wayne went down, T.Y. Hilton's been non-existent, so you don't have a number one receiver other than Reggie Wayne. He's getting up there in age. It's about time for him to retire and wait 5 years and go into the Hall of Fame. But, I mean, you've got nobody to back him up, and like you said, that falls on Irsay, who'd rather trade his first-round picks for beast mode, 2 yards a carry instead of replenishing the team's offensive line or defense.
It's going to come back to haunt him.
He's like a fantasy owner who actually owns a team.
Yeah, and he's on Twitter all the time running his mouth off about his football team. This is a guy I wouldn't want to play for if I was in the NFL. I don't want my owner out there bashing me on. You go out on the field, and I mean, come on, man. It's ridiculous. Handle yourself with a little professionalism.
One guy I would like to play for is my boy Chip Kelly, moving on now as the Arizona Cardinals.
This is your game.
My game.
Your game.
My game is my Arizona Cardinals still going my Philadelphia Eagles, and my Philadelphia Eagles won 24-21. Nick Poley and Dynamite Foles with 237 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no picks still. And Zach Ertz, who I've been calling out all year that I'd rather have Honey Badger, who was on the other side of the field.
That's the funniest part.
That game. He went for 5 receptions, 68 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Finally decided to show up, and it was ironic that it was against the Honey Badger.
Yeah, he's been listening to the Displaced Diehards podcast. And he came out with a little chip on his shoulder and ended up showing up the Honey Badger in this game. Philadelphia Eagles are rolling right now. They're a team in the NFC that's kind of. I mean, don't want to say they're flying under the radar because people are giving them a little bit of credit. But you hear people talking about the NFC playoffs. You're not hearing the Eagles' name mentioned. This is a team that could be dangerous. Their defense is coming together, and Nick Foles. I mean, Nick Foles is playing as good at the quarterback spot as anybody across the NFL. So
he's on pace to break the all-time QBR rating held by Aaron Rodgers at this point.
19 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. That is mind-blowing. The biggest thing about that is the 0 interceptions because Michael Vick. This team was dangerous with Michael Vick. But the fact of the matter is those turnovers were costing them games, and you've eliminated those turnovers. And that's how you win games like 3-point games like this. You don't turn the ball over.
The team's still putting up about the same amount of points as they were with Vic as the quarterback.
Right.
But the key thing is we're not turning the ball over, and the team we're playing isn't putting up as many points because of the turnovers. So, I mean, the thing I'm worried about is the second half of games. We've really fallen off. I don't know if it's people adjusting the Foles at halftime and then him not being able to do what he does naturally. But that's the one thing I've got concern with. And just to defend my boy Honey Badger, he said that Zach Ertz proved himself on the field against them. Once they put Honey Badger on Earth, he didn't have a reception the rest of the game.
Yeah, Honey Badger's a player. Don't make no mistake about it. The Arizona Cardinals have some absolute studs at the cornerback spot with Patrick Peterson and the Honey Badger.
They could be a Seattle type team in a couple years.
Yeah, if they just had a Russell Wilson, no, that's no slight against Carson Palmer. He's came in and done a fairly decent job.
He went for 302, 3 touchdowns, but he also had 3 turnovers.
There's the difference.
He's got the same problem as Michael Vick as far as turnovers.
Right.
And they're trying to play the non-turnover, keep it low scoring game, win on your defense, and that doesn't help you.
Yeah, and you got to highlight a guy like Larry Fitzgerald who's still getting it done at a very high level. The poor guy's been just saddled with some of the worst quarterback play in the league. As
Kevin Cobb. John Skelton.
The list goes Lindley, T.J. Lindley. The list goes on and on. But the Arizona Cardinals are what they are. They're a solid team, but they just can't. It's tough. The NFC's tough. We've said it all along. These teams are going to be right there, in the mix. But it just takes winning games like this. The Eagles have found the ways to win these type of games by not turning the ball over, and that's what won the game here for them.
There's one guy I want to highlight is my boy from Michigan, Go Blue. Brandon Graham actually got a little bit of PT. I have no idea why he's not on the field more, but he played 13 snaps and had 2 sacks on those 13 snaps. They might want to get him in on defense a little more.
Yeah, he's definitely settling in to that new defense. Like I say, we've said this all along. The Philadelphia Eagles are transitioning from a 4-3 to a 3-4 defense, and it's going to take some of these players that have played in the other scheme a little while to get it under their belt. And right now, the Eagles' defense is living up to the hype, far exceeding my expectations of what they were going to be this year.
Chip Kelly actually, when asked if Nick Foles was going to be the starter for the rest of the season, said yes, Nick Foles will be the starter for the next 1,000 years in Philadelphia. So hearing that news, we had to get a hold of Nick Poley and Dynamite Foles and see his reaction to being named the Philadelphia starter for the next 1,000 years.
Yeah, I think the only quarterback to be in the league for 1,000 years would be the count. But go ahead.
Or possibly Brennan Whedon.
Possibly.
Take it away, Riley. This is Riley by Guy Cooper on the Displaced by Guy Diehards podcast. I'm here with fellow Caucasian Connection member Nick Poling Dynamite Foles. I'm going to interview him right now. Nick, what's your favorite thing about being an Eagle? An Eagle is tearing through the league like Thanksgiving dinner through a hound dog.
Gosh, Eagles are freaking sweet. They have huge wingspans and big freaking talons. Jason Kelsey's mustache is freaking sweet. It looks like freaking handlebars. And unlimited tater tots in the lunchroom. Freaking awesome. Unlimited tater tots. Sweet.
Oh, Jason Kelsey, he does look like old Simba Science Sam out there with that mustache, boy. That's what I look like a cowboy, even though we don't like cowboys around Philly. Now, whenever Vic got hurt, like he always tend to do, Chip Kelly turned to you, said, Nick Poling, I need you to go in this game. What was running through your mind?
Coach Chip came over to the bench and told me I was going in, and I said, gosh, Chip, leave me alone. I don't even have any skills.
Skills? What do you mean skills? You trying to be a ninja boy?
Like nunchuck skills, bow hunting skills, computer hacking skills. To be a starting quarterback, you got to have great skills. God.
Well, I will say one thing. The Caucasian Connection definitely got some skills. As I've been saying all year, all they had to do, bring in old Nick. We got that going. We got Zach Ertz out there catching balls. Got Brent Selleck out there. You got your boy Riley by Guy Cooper out there. And our boy Chip Kelly, he came out this week and said you're his quarterback for the next 1,000 years. I ain't that good at math. That's a long time.
1,000 years? I'm going to play for 1,000,000 years. God. I'm the best. I'm going to be awesome. I'm never going to throw an interception ever. I'm freaking sweet.
I'll tell you what, 1,000 years as a quarterback, he's going to be older than old Brandon Whedon out there. But that's going to wrap it up. Nick Poling, thanks for joining us.
Okay, bye.
Caucasian Connection check now, boy. Thank you, Riley by Guy Cooper and Nick Poling and Dynamite Foes for your thoughts on the Caucasian Connection. Keep on rolling.
That's right. Moving on to Denver Broncos. They traveled down to Arrowhead and beat the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs on a 3-game skid now. Denver Broncos looked very good in this contest. Peyton Manning, who they said couldn't play in the cold, looked pretty doggone good in this one to me.
Peyton Manning slapped the Kool-Aid man Andy Reid around like he stole something from him in this game. 5 touchdowns on 403 yards passing. Eric Decker caught 4 of those touchdowns, 174 yards receiving. Alex Smith actually stepped up and went for 293 and 2 touchdowns, had 1 pick, which is very unlikely, so that shows he actually had to pass the ball
Yeah, throw the ball down
when
the
he's
field.
throwing picks. Jamal Charles, 93 yards and a touchdown. Andy Reid and his adjustments on not figuring out a way to stop Eric Decker some way. When the guys went for 2 touchdowns, at some point you might want to figure out a way to get another guy on him.
Yeah, and Manning picks that guy out. There's that one guy for Denver that seems to go off on a weekly basis. This week it was Decker. Kansas City, you got to wonder how much of their 9-0 record was a fraud.
All of it?
Obviously, we pointed that out quite a bit here on the program. They start playing, top caliber teams. They were going to
San Diego. I don't know if you can call them a top caliber team. Sorry, Beans, but I mean, still in San Diego, whooped their ass.
Top caliber offense. That's the thing. That's the thing. Kansas City's defense was ranked in the top 5, and then now they're ranked like 23rd in the league. They're giving up a ridiculous amount of yards and points.
11 points per game when they were playing horrible teams, and now 30 points a game when they're playing quality offenses.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not going to get it done. That's not the way the Kansas City Chiefs are built. You have to give Alex Smith credit. He's keeping them in these games. He's playing a lot better than I expected him to, but the defense just isn't making enough plays to win the game.
It's never good when Alex Smith is throwing the ball 42 times for you. That's never good.
I don't care if he is throwing for 300 yards. That's not what you're wanting. You're wanting a running game to control the clock and a strong defense.
And some Chief wide receiver, feel free to catch a ball when it hits you in the hands.
Absolutely.
And help out Alex Smith. I mean, I'm a big Alex Smith basher. I think he gets a lot of credit for just being a very mid-level quarterback on really great teams, on everything but the quarterback on teams. And I think he went out there and played. He was making throws. He should have had probably 350, 375 yards if some KC wide receivers would have stepped up and catch the damn ball.
Yeah. Kansas City's got their problems. They're 9-3. Lucky for them, the AFC is pretty much a train wreck. That 6th seed is right now. The Dolphins and the Ravens are right there at 6-6. They're 9-3. They would have to completely collapse, and those teams would have to finish pretty strong for Kansas City to fall out of the playoff race. So they're still going to be a playoff team, but they're going to need to ratchet up these problems pretty quick.
Yeah, I ain't banking on the Miami Dolphins making a playoff run or anything like that.
No, I mean 6-6. They might slide in at 8-8 somehow, but I don't see them overcoming the Kansas City Chiefs, who are 9-3, and they win one more game, they're going to be 10-6. At worst 10-6. So they're a playoff team.
Speaking of a team we thought might be a playoff team, moving on now to St. Louis as they took on the 49ers. And St. Louis we thought might be that team in the NFC that comes on with a great defense and makes that push, but they ended up getting stomped out by the Niners.
Yeah, they're similar to Arizona in the sense that they're going to come out and they're going to play you tough every week. This defense is not. They're not going to. You can't sleep on the Rams. You come out unprepared against this team, you're going to get beat. That's what you're going to get with the St. Louis Rams. They're not going to wow you with their talent offensively, but their defense.
I think they're worse on offense than the Cardinals are by sure. I mean, Carson Palmer is old and decrepit as he is still way better than any option they've got in St. Louis since Bradford went down.
Carson Palmer's way better, and they don't even have a Larry Fitzgerald even close to a Larry Fitzgerald in this roster. So you have to instantly look at that. So the St. Louis Rams are playing solid football, but right now you got to look at San Francisco, a team who is also flying under the radar because they had a couple ugly losses in there. This is still a team that, to me, can still represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. This is still a team that'll punch you right in the mouth.
Michael Crabtree came back, and I know there was a big expectation on him to put up huge numbers, but I think what you've seen his effect is that Anquan Bolden and Vernon Davis were no longer able to be the main targets on offense, so they had to pay attention to Michael Crabtree. He's still got his, of course. He's going to be a guy that gets some possession receptions, of course, but the thing I liked is Vernon Davis and Anquan Bolden became existent again.
Yeah, well, that's what a lot of people don't understand, how big of a weapon Michael Crabtree was for this team last year. They might have just, said, Kaepernick's playing fantastic. That's why this team is where they're at. But Michael Crabtree emerged down the stretch last year.
He was a top 5 wide receiver in the league for the last part of the season. Once Kaepernick came in.
Look at a team like the Colts, who just lost Reggie Wayne, and that's kind of a similar effect that you got to look at that similar effect. So a team like the San Francisco 49ers. So getting a guy like that back at this time of the year is huge. So the 49ers look like they've solidified themselves as one of the teams that's going to be represented in the NFC playoffs. So
obviously not going to win the division with Seattle just running away with everything with only one loss, but I think the Niners are pretty much almost guaranteed a wild card spot, and I think they can do some damage. They've played in Seattle enough to where that home field advantage isn't going to affect them as much as it will other teams that aren't used to playing there. Yeah,
that sets up for a huge game this week. Not necessarily for the division or anything, but just maybe to make a statement that, we're here, we're going to play you tough, and Seattle's coming to town, so that's going to be an interesting contest there for the 49ers.
The 49ers were on Monday Night Football the previous week taking on the Washington Redskins, and our Displaced Diehard correspondent, 49ers superfan Matt Gray, was live in attendance for that game. He's going to check in now with his thoughts on that game.
There's a place that I gotta go, and the name is San Francisco.
This is Johnny Interview here for the Displaced Diehards NFL podcast. I'm here with 49ers superfan Matt Gray, reporting from his Monday night experience, the 49ers at the Washington Redskins.
This is 49ers Displaced Diehard Matt Gray. I'm a diehard 49ers fan because I met Joe Montana at the airport in Washington, D.C. when I was 10 years old. He shook my dad's hand and patted me on the head and couldn't believe how big I was to be 10 years old. From then on, I've been loyal to my Niners. Thanks for having me on the show.
Now, Matt, the Niners got an easy win. What were your thoughts on seeing Cap live?
He was everything I thought he would be and more. The little things you don't see on TV, like his actions in the huddle, the meetings on the sidelines, and the speed of his game were amazing. I still get the feeling that he's been told not to run because many times he ran out of bounds when he could have got 3 to 4 more yards, and he would take a step forward to run and then stop himself. Overall, his accuracy needs some work. He still gets in trouble trying to show off his cannon arm. He needs to let plays develop more and not be in a rush.
There were a ton of Niners fans in the stadium. When RG3 got sacked, the majority of the stadium cheered. Are the DC fans turning on RG3?
I think the issue is the same as it's always been with the Redskins. When they are winning, all is well. When you're losing, the world's over. I think that at first the fans recognized his commitment to play in the season opener and felt like he did it for them, but now they're realizing they could have been 3-8 with Cousins and given Bob all the time he needed to get healthy. But like you guys have said before, pulling him now would show that they were wrong And everyone knows coaches and general managers hate admitting they're wrong. They also fear the fallout that would happen if they put Cousins in and he won a few games. Stardom is short-lived in Washington. Ask Keith Schuler.
Okay, Matt. After seeing them live, do you think the Niners can beat Seattle in the playoffs in Seattle? What would their best plan of attack be versus that Seahawks defense?
I think we can beat Seattle in Seattle. It would take a near-perfect performance, but we haven't had one of those this year yet, and it's way overdue. The key to beating them is getting up early, taking the crowd out of the game, and then playing ball control. The Buccaneers did the first part and the second part, but failed miserably with ball control. The formula is there, it just has to be executed. The best plan of attack for the Seahawks defense for us is scheduled to play this week versus the Rams. Getting Crabtree back allows Cap to have his third down possession receiver, and it keeps defenses honest because they can no longer double team any receiver without being light in the box. I would like to see LaMichael James get some more playing time and be a big contributor to the team, not just a special teamer. I would prefer to not see Seattle until the NFC Championship game if we are lucky enough to get that far.
Okay, thank you, Matt, for giving us your take on the Monday night matchup between the 49ers and the Washington Redskins.
Thanks again for having me on, and I look forward to catching up on my DVR when I get back.
Back to you guys in the studios. Displaced Diehards for life.
Thank you to our 49ers superfan Matt Gray for the report on the Monday Night Football live experience. As he got into a little bit of the Washington Redskins talk here, that's going to segue perfectly into the New York Giants versus Washington Redskins atrocity as the Giants won 24-17.
Yeah, I tried watching this game, but I was falling asleep, so I turned it over to the Walking Dead finale, which, I mean, I guess infants getting mutilated on AMC was better than watching Peyton Hillis run it up the middle for 2 or 3 yards.
Last week in the prediction segment, you heard that my prediction was that I hope something blowed up in this game, and I wasn't forced to watch it. So we actually got hit up on the Twitter account at Diehards Podcast by Super Bill and Bane, and he said that he can take care of that for me. So let's see how that went.
Thank you, Brandon. I've come here to destroy this atrocity of a game, to blow it up. But the identity of the Trigger Man is not a mystery. The Diehards will hold the detonator. For we did not come as conquerors, but as liberators, to return control of this division to the city of Philadelphia. And there will be no sign of interference from you, Tom Coughlin, or you, Mike Shanahan. But let's not stand on ceremony here, Mr. Ward. What say you, Bob?
Let's ride, Bane. $5 footlongs for you and your crew.
No, Bob. You expect one of us in the wreckage, brother.
Well, have we at least started the fire?
Yes, Catfish. The fire rises.
Thank you, Super Bill and Bane, for blowing up that abomination that was called an NFL football game. Everybody thanks you.
Yeah, people still hate on the Vikings-Giants Monday night game. There's been several games that were just as bad. I mean, granted, Josh Freeman stunk it up, but geez, that game was horrible.
The damn Saints-Seattle game was horrible to watch.
It was, unfortunately.
Moving on to another game now, as Cincinnati took on Beans' San Diego Superchargers.
This is a game I fully expected Cincinnati just to blow in classic Bengal fashion because San Diego has been
typical Bengals would.
Yeah. I mean, San Diego has been winning these kind of games, and I just kind of expected Cincinnati to lay an egg here, but they got the job done. It was a close game, but they found a way to win it, and that's important. A win's a win at this point for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, that was almost like a playoff win type game where it was a low scoring. Any mistakes were going to cost you the game, and they stepped up. I mean, you got to give props to the Bengals. That's what we said all year, is that they're those teams that makes mistakes, shoots yourself in the foot. And for this game, I'm not buying into them for the rest of the year. I'm not saying that they're going to do that the rest of the year, but for this game, they did.
Yeah, I'm not buying into them as a team that's going to make a very deep playoff run. But, it is what it is. Cincinnati is probably going to win that division, barring a complete collapse. And like we've said, I don't know that I would rule that out. But at this point, I'm going to have to roll with Cincinnati as winning the AFC North.
Yeah, I'm not so sure right now that most NFL fans wouldn't take the Ravens in the playoffs versus Cincinnati, the other team from that division that is a playoff contender. But I think the Ravens are probably the better playoff equipped team.
Yeah, you have to keep your eye on Baltimore. They're starting to make their move a little bit.
I got to give him credit as a displaced Diehards Dallas Cowboys super fan. Chris Riley predicted.
He did.
He doesn't get a lot right.
He
so
doesn't.
I guess
We have to highlight when he
I'll credit it when he does. Big Weirdo doesn't get a lot right.
That's right. And San Diego, I just hope that maybe by the grace of God that maybe they just say, we're going to change the culture in San Diego. We're going to go away from Phillip Rivers, because I'm kind of wanting Phillip Rivers to be my quarterback next year. I know there's about a 0.01% chance of that happening, but
I hope by the grace of God that San Diego wins again, so we can have Beans on the
yeah,
on the
we
show
need to have
singing
him
the San Diego Superchargers song again.
We have him on singing again. He might win a Grammy. That was a hell of a performance last week.
Speaking of a hell of a performance, let's move on to this next game. I know my co-host can't wait to talk about as the Chicago Bears took on the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings get the win. They kind of won twice, if you want to be technical about it. They got the win in overtime, 23-20.
I thought we were heading for another tie. It's sad. You're in a sad state of affairs when you're calculating 2 ties as a win at some point.
Like, what does this mean for me? Is this like a win? Is this like a win and I just have one less game on my schedule? Is this what it means?
I'm sitting there looking at the TV and I look at Ward and I'm like,
is this going to affect me taking Teddy Bridgewater?
I'm like, what? What happens if we tie again? Like, what does that mean?
I don't know. It's never happened.
You were like 2 ties equals 1 win, and I was like, well, I guess 1 win versus Green Bay and Chicago with no losses, I guess, is okay.
That's one way to look at it. Find the purple lining.
You want to find the purple lining in the clouds there, but you're looking at a game where Rhett Ellison drops a touchdown.
Addicted to love, Rhett Ellison, one of the displaced Diehards favorites.
He is a scapegoat this week. I love Rhett Ellison. I love it. I love what he brings to the team, but man, he had a game to forget. That dropped touchdown turned into a pick in the end zone for the Bears, and then he grabs the face mask there after we're in full celebration mode, celebrating the win. He reaches out and grabs the face mask and continues the game. And I stormed out and left. I couldn't handle watching them lose again.
As I was watching this game, the thought that came to mind is whoever writes the Vikings games have better ideals than WWE creative, because they find ways for the Vikings to lose and win games. I mean, they have crazier finishes than anything WWE television has seen in decades.
I've said it several times on the program that this team will find a way to draw me in. They will find a way. I did not care one iota whether the Vikings won or lost this game. What I'm looking for at this point is just young players making plays, and I'll highlight that in a minute. But, that's all I'm looking for. Just want to see some glimpses from maybe some guys that are going to contribute to the team in the future. And then they go out and,
they still figure out a way to mess with you on a Sunday.
Yeah,
you go from not caring to almost having a stroke by 3:30 p.m.
Yeah, and that is what it is. It felt like a loss to me. But what I do want to talk about, though, is the players. Xavier Rhodes is coming along. This guy made plays in this game. Alshon Jeffrey went off for the Chicago Bears, but if you notice, Chris Cook was defending him on those plays, not Xavier Rhodes. I thought he did a fantastic job on Brandon Marshall.
Yeah, Brandon Marshall was non-existent in this game.
They put him one-on-one with Brandon Marshall the whole game, and I thought for a rookie, he did more than hold his own. The last 2 weeks, this guy has excelled in man coverage, and that finally, Leslie Frazier, it took him 11 weeks to figure it out, but finally he's put this guy in a position to succeed, and hey, hats off to Xavier Rhodes. He's looking like a true blue first-round pick. And then
how about another rookie, Cordero Patterson, 23-yard touchdown run, looking like Percy Harvin.
Like Percy, yeah, except he's not getting injured on every play.
Yeah, except he didn't pull up lane.
That's right.
He didn't tear his labia on the play.
He didn't excel in the passing game, kind of like I thought he would when Castle came in. Castle definitely focused on Greg Jennings. Now Ponder was focusing on Jerome Simpson the whole time, but Castle came in and made Jennings a target, and he looks more comfortable in the pocket. That's what Castle's going to give you. If he can hone in his accuracy, Castle by far gives him the better chance in the passing game. But a guy I want to highlight before we stop talking about a team that's only won 3 games and the Minnesota Vikings is a guy.
And a tie.
And a tie, that's right. And is Audie Cole, linebacker that they cut a couple weeks ago, middle linebacker they cut to make room for an extra offensive lineman. We were a little thin on the offensive line. They brought him back. Aaron Henderson gets into trouble. A guy that I've been down on all year, if you've listened. Aaron Henderson just has not got the job done. I know he's like at the top of the league in tackles. That's because our defense on the field 40 minutes out of 60 in every single game. You're bound to make some tackles. But Audie Cole has came in, and not only has he made plays in the running game, but this guy is covering the field like no middle linebacker blocker that we've ever had in this cover 2 zone, which is making a big difference in our defense. So I got to really tip my cap to that guy, and I'm hoping he gets more snaps.
There's one other Viking I want to talk about, and it's the Viking warrior Odinson, and he checks in on it with his thoughts for the Vikings Bears.
Ha! 'Tis I, Sir Odinson. Thou hast been in the great hall since the Sabbath, throwing back barrel after barrel of Asgardian mead in celebration of victory. Ha ha! Truly this season there hath not been much to celebrate in the lands of the North, so we must celebrate every victory, even as meager of a victory as it may have been. Ha ha! Victory! Especially over the Bears. Thou despises the Bears. That's right, Jade, that is jaded. The Odinson despises you and your hot star reality television wife. The Odinson loathes all of your kind. In fact, after this barrel of meat is tapped, Boulder the Brave and I may go and smite the entire city of Chicago clean off the map. Ha! But enough of anger. Back to celebration! The Slayer of Serpents, Lord Kenneth of Stabler, has supplied a pack of the finest mortal whores for thyself to partake in. Ha! And all warriors of the North. So, Himdall, open thy Bifrost and bring your ass here to the Great Hall and eat, drink, and ravage some wenches. Ha ha! Celebration, wenches!
Thank you, Viking warrior Odinson, for your report on the Minnesota Vikings getting a win in overtime. Shocker there. Going to move on now to New Orleans versus Seattle, but first I'm going to bring in the fact that I've got a new co-host here as my first co-host, Stephen A. Turner, stormed out whenever Gimp here didn't bring him some twice-filtered orange juice quick enough, and it wasn't chilled to his liking. So he stormed out, and we brought Gimp in to talk about it. Gimp, what's going on, man?
Not a lot today, bud. What are you up to?
Going to talk about the Monday Night Football game with New Orleans, Seattle. Finally, Monday Night Football got a quality game. You look at it, you're like, the 1 and 2 seeds in the NFC. We're going to finally get a Monday Night Football game we can enjoy. It's not some stink fest like it has been the last 4 weeks. And then 3 minutes into the game, it's already out of hand. And the final score is 34-7 as Seattle just continues to be dominant at home. Russell Wilson continues to vault up the quarterback MVP discussion chart. You got anything to add about Russell Wilson's performance? I know he's one of the guys you've had on your fantasy teams in previous years.
He won me my fantasy game this week, actually, yeah.
So he's got to be near and dear to your heart.
Yeah, he put up 27 points, so I got to beat our commish, Woolard. So that was all.
Put him out of the playoffs. Yeah. How'd that feel, Woolard, in your own league? That's got to sting a little bit.
Corporate monkeys.
Yeah, that. This game was about as intriguing as a typical corn dog versus commish game in the Corporate Monkeys League. So we're going to move on now. Instead of talking about the blowout, we'll go to an actual game that was highly contested. We thought this was going to be the blowout. Moving on now to New England versus Houston, 34-31 as New England got the win. So I brought up last week, Gimp had some special interest in this game.
Yeah, this was a rivalry game at home. This was a bowl game as far as I was concerned.
Like Hatfield-McCoy's.
Yeah. We drew a line. We sat on the sides, and it was a stare down.
And
then 4 quarters.
Then it started off looking like Houston was going to come out rallying the troops around Gary Kubiak and getting the win. But, I mean, your New England Patriots end up being the New England Patriots, pull it out at the end, 34-31. Tom Brady. He's Tom Brady, 371 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Gronk, 127 yards and a touchdown. Julian Edelman, 101 yards receiving. Shane Vereen, 75 total yards and a touchdown. To touch on that, Stephen Ridley was inactive. What was your boy Belichick's quote about that?
46 other players were ahead of him in the depth chart, so that was a very Belichick answer.
Captain Obvious.
Any information from Bill there. Like you said, it's Captain Obvious.
The thing I want to bring up on the Houston side of the ball is our boy Ben Tate, who we've been talking about all year, saying that he's the better running back in Houston, and hold on to him in your fantasy team. Just stash him away down there on the bottom part of your roster, and he'll pay off. He paid off huge this week, 102 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. Andre Johnson over 100 yards again receiving as he continues to benefit when Case Keenum's his quarterback. Case Keenum only went for 272 and no touchdowns, had a rushing touchdown. I think Keenum, whenever he comes into the game, you don't notice the deficiencies so much on the Houston side of the ball offensively. Whenever you've got Matt Schaub in there, I think the the deficiencies show up and turnovers happen. With Case Keenum, he doesn't overthink it. He just goes out there and throws the ball. He's not afraid. He's like Brett Favre-like out there.
Well, I've been saying all year, I've been coming in here every week, since I've been coming in and praising our defense. But I've been saying ever since Will Fork and Mayo came out of the game, I've been saying that you're going to start seeing that come up more and more. And we allowed Ben Tate 102 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. So I think you're starting to see that defensive side of the ball, start to wear thin as the year goes by and we start getting a playoff. Playoff game. So
that's what I was saying on 102.7 is I think Vince Wilfork has missed more than Wes Welker and Aaron Hernandez, or Aaron Hernandez and Welker leaving the team is what's gotten all the pub and everything. But since Wilfork's went down, I mean, they've just been shredded on defense.
No, it's putting less pressure. It's putting more pressure on the front and more pressure on the back because Talib's banged up. He's not playing 100%, and you have Dennard out, so he's not playing 100% either. So you're not getting a lot of, the front seven isn't bailing out the secondary like it was, and they were playing so outstanding.
Yet through all this, the Patriots still maintain an 86% December win percentage. I mean, you got to give them credit there. It's got
6-6.
That's got to go to the coaching staff. I mean, the coaching staff and Tom Brady's the one that's been there through that whole time, and I mean, they're still there. So I mean, I'm banking on New England. New England's my favorite in the AFC. I'm still that guy that's not buying into Peyton Manning being able to throw in the code. I know he had a good game last week. It wasn't really that cold in Kansas City for that game.
Well, you said it last week on the radio show, 102.7 The Game on Mondays at 6:30. Just a little plug in there.
Good plug there.
You said that I think you said that it was the best coach game all year. Bill's really stepping up. I mean, you haven't had to see these corrections and these types of game plans going into games. Like you said, it's playoff weather, it's playoff games, so you're getting ready for it. And this is when you start seeing like you said, the cream rise of the crop. How you said.
Belichick,
the favorite coming out of the AFC.
Belichick and Tom Brady are the polar opposites of Tony Romo. As Tony Romo can't win in December, and then Tom Brady and Bill Belichick can't lose in December. I mean, I don't know. Maybe if I was the ginger Jason Garrett there, I might have Tony Romo sit down and study some Tom Brady tapes, figure out what he's doing in December to get it right, and then watch. As I'm making fun of Tony Romo for not winning in December, he'll go undefeated this month since I'm talking shit about him.
He probably will go undefeated this month. I mean, like you said, he's every other game. He's almost like a Geno Smith, like every other game quarterback, and he continues to fold during the latter half of the season.
The problem with that is he's getting paid like Peyton Manning, not Geno Smith. Geno Smith, you kind of expect to be with a rookie quarterback like that, but I mean. Speaking of non-rookie quarterbacks, Tom Brady just continues to lead the New England Patriots. Since he's been there, you've been a playoff contender, Super Bowl contender ever since he's been there. He does it with different weapons. Now that he's got Gronk back, the wide receivers that he were using, the only wide receivers that he was using on the outside for the first 8 weeks of the season when they were still doing well. It's not like he wasn't doing well when he had Gronk. Their record was still great. Offense wasn't running as nice as it is now, but now those wide receivers on the outside he's not even using. It's now down to Edelman, Gronk, and Vereen getting most of the looks on the passing game.
Well, I'll continue to say, I understand the benching of Ridley with the fumbles and it being in his head and everything, but I'd like to feel a lot of teams don't have good players, and I'd like to field the best players that we have. And I think Ridley on the field is a much better option than Brandon Bolden or LeGarrette Blount. So I would like to see him get a starting spot back. I mean, I understand you can't turn the ball over this late in the year, but you just can't rely on it. Dobson's banged up. Kimbrel Tompkins has been ineffective the past
non-existent the second half of the season.
So I mean, like I said, I'd like to field the players that you do have. People want would cherish to have these players on the team, and we're not even putting them on. Just it is frustrating, but I mean, you can't complain when you're getting wins.
This game was one of those. It was a tight game throughout. We was expecting a blowout, like we said in the predictions last week on the show, but it ended up being where Houston came out to a lead, and it was looking like Gimp might have a nice day at home, but it didn't turn out like that. And we got the phone messages to prove it. No, and we're gonna kick it to those right now.
Voicemail box of
Chris Couples.
To listen to your message, press 2.
Hey babe, it's me. So what's going on with your Pats today? Looks like the Bulls are on parade. Just wanted to give you a little shit. Bye.
Next message.
Hey, well I was more or less joking earlier, but maybe we've got this. Tom Brady should start getting scared.
Next message.
All right. So you got a couple touchdowns. Nothing we can't come back from. We've got this.
Next message.
Woot woot. Keenum just got his first NFL TD. In your face. How about that shit?
Next message.
Man, fuck Tom Brady.
Next message.
All right, goddammit, I concede. You're fucking lucky the refs blew that goddamn holding call. All right, I guess I'll hang my head in fucking shame because the fucking almighty Patriots are the winners. Whatever.
Thank you for calling. Goodbye.
Wow, it sounds like Gimp better sleep with one eye open. Let's move it on from that and get to the games.
Week 14 across the
music.
National Football League. Let's go ahead and kick it off down in Jacksonville. Well, a lot of people hyped up as the Teddy Bridgewater Bowl, but if Jacksonville keeps winning, they're going to take themselves right out of that. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars playing host to the Houston Texans, and I'm going to take a shocker. I'm rolling with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I predict there will be a lot of bad football played. Give me Houston.
Let's go up to Baltimore, where they're going to be hosting my Minnesota Vikings. The Baltimore Ravens are on the playoff run, and the Minnesota Vikings are on a run for a franchise quarterback in the draft. I'm going to roll with the Baltimore Ravens.
Give me Baltimore as well, but it'll be a close game because Minnesota will figure out a way to F with Steve Turner some way in this game.
Hide the nooses. Let's go up to Cincinnati. They're going to be hosting the Indianapolis Colts, and Andrew Luck and Jim Irsay are coming to town. And even though I've been hating on them, it's the Cincinnati Bengals, and they're bound to lay an egg at some point. Go ahead and give me the Colts.
I'm going to go with Cincy in this one, not just based on karma from the football gods. Jim Irsay, you're an asshole.
Let's go up to Lambeau Field, God's country, home of the best GM in football, Ted Thompson, who has got no wins without Aaron Rodgers. They're going to be playing host to the Atlanta Falcons, and go ahead and just let me roll with the Atlanta Falcons.
The Atlanta Falcons barely have any wins with Matt Ryan this year. This is a tough one. Two teams,
I had a hard time with this.
teams that look like they try to lose games. Give me Atlanta.
Anytime it's a toss-up and Green Bay's involved, I'm taking the other team. Let's move on to New England, where they're going to be playing host to my Cleveland Browns, Drunk Bernie's Cleveland Browns, Brandon Whedon's AARP-led
Golden
Cleveland
Corral's
Browns.
Cleveland Browns.
I'm going with New England, obviously, in this one. It's a laugher.
Yeah, give me New England. They win like 90% of their games in December.
Who's playing quarterback for the Jets this week? Is it Mark Brunell? Is it Phil Sims' kid? I don't even know.
They just signed Jay Cutler's favorite quarterback, Caleb Haney.
Hey, look out! Let's go up there, and they're hosting the Oakland Raiders, and we had to Google this guy McGloin on Thanksgiving Day to see who he was. I'm going to pick McGloin. Throws for 4 touchdowns. We don't even know who he is.
I'm going to predict that you're going to have to Google the New York Jets starter by halftime, as it'll be Matt Sims, and Oakland will get the win.
All right, let's go to Philly, home of your Philadelphia.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
They're going to be playing host to a team that turns the ball over a lot.
On the road to victory.
And they're coached by the worst coach in the league, Jim Schwartz. I'm going to take the Philadelphia Eagles just for that simple fact. The Eagles get it done with Chip Kelly.
And the Eagles are coached by the best coach in the league, my boy Chip. Eagles.
Let's go up to Ben Roethlisberger and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Don't approach him too quickly. He rapes people in the bathrooms.
That's right. Pittsburgh Steelers play host to the Miami Dolphins in a game with playoff implications across the AFC. I'm gonna have to roll.
Because they suck.
Because AFC is a laughing stock this year.
We don't talk about you much, AFC.
That's right. We said it all along. You should have listened to the podcast in the preseason. But I'm taking the Miami Dolphins to prevail over the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I'm taking Pittsburgh. I think as long as they've got Bell back in the backfield, if they don't have Bell back in the backfield, then they're atrocious like they were at the beginning of the season. But I think he'll be back from what I've read, so give me Pittsburgh.
Let's go down to Tampa Bay, home of Greg Schiano, a guy who took all kinds of shit all year long when they had a crappy quarterback named Josh Freeman. He cuts the guy, and they win a bunch of games. So guess what? He may know what he's doing. Tampa Bay is playing host to Toronto Mayor, the guy that likes to do crystal meth. It's his team, the Buffalo Bills. They're coming to town. Hopefully nobody does any crystal meth in this game. I'm taking Tampa Bay.
Well, if the mayor does meth, I'm guessing the whole Buffalo team does meth, so give me Buffalo. They're going to be amped out of their mind for this game.
That's right. Let's go to Mile High Stadium. The Toronto Mayor might be a Mile High.
I thought Mile High was Buffalo. What the hell are we doing?
What are we doing? Denver Broncos are going to be hosting Ill Bill's Tennessee Titans. And I pick Ryan Fitzpatrick to turn the ball over at least 8 or 9 times in this game. Give me the Denver Broncos.
The quarterback matchup is Ryan Fitzpatrick versus Peyton Manning.
That's all you need to know.
Moving on.
All right. Let's go down to the big toaster. Your Arizona Cardinals, the Honey Badger. They're welcoming in my St. Louis Rams. You know who I'm rolling with. I'm rolling with my Rams.
These are a battle of our adopted teams here.
That's
you
right.
know who I'm rolling with. I'm rolling with my Honey Badger. Give me the Cardinals.
Let's go out to San Diego. The San Diego Superchargers are going to be playing host to the New York Giants. Yeah! And you already know who I'm taking in this one, just for the simple fact we got to hear him sing again next week. I'm taking Beans, San Diego Superchargers.
Give me the Chargers and Beans singing.
Hey, we got a NFC West rivalry game. Buckle your chin straps, folks. It's the San Francisco 49ers playing host to the Seattle Seahawks. And the San Francisco 49ers are rolling. The Seahawks only have one loss. They're bound to slip up at some point. Give me Jim Harbaugh in this one. I'm taking the 49ers.
I figured out the key to Seattle's success at home. They have a direct link dealer to Adderall. And when they're on the road, they don't have that. So give me the San Francisco 49ers to beat the Seattle Seahawks.
All right, let's go down to the Katrina Dome, home of the New Orleans Saints. They're happy to get back there after that ass whooping they took up in Seattle.
It's the only people on the face of the earth to be back in that hellhole.
I heard their plane broke down. They couldn't find the hotel. They slept in the street like most people in New Orleans. New Orleans Saints are hosting the Carolina Panthers. I'm taking New Orleans to beat the Carolina Panthers.
I'm taking my boy Cam Newton to come in there like Superman and avoid the Drew Brees kryptonite.
Hey, that's my Carolina Panthers. I can't believe I picked the Saints in that one. Let's go to Monday Night Football.
That's how fragile he is after this past Sunday's Vikings game. He still hasn't recovered.
I want a lot of cold med right now. Excuse me. I'm taking the Chicago Bears over the Dallas Cowboys. Sorry, Riley. I don't know who's playing quarterback in this one, but I'm taking McCown, hopefully, to play quarterback. If they start Cutler, they're idiots.
Yeah, give me Chicago in this one, unless Jay Cutler plays.
All right, let's head up to Washington, home of the Catfish, RG3, our guy. You know, we love him here on the program. They're playing host to the Kansas City Chiefs, who are sliding. They're sliding bad. And I'm picking the Washington Redskins to continue to slide. Give me the Redskins and the Catfish.
Yeah, Washington's the home of quarterback coach family controversy. Is about to pop off in the offseason. It's going to have sparks flying, and it's going to have Washington looking for a new coach on their team. Give me Kansas City and Coach Kool-Aid Man.
Let's keep that head coach out of the tanning bed and keep the cigarettes out of his hand, because the guy looks like he's melting away out there in Washington. But anyway, we got a guy that comes on the program. You know him by now. He's a damn celebrity. Everybody sends me text messages and hits me up on Twitter to talk about how this guy's the star of the show. I really don't know what he's talking about 90% of the time, but we're going to throw it right now to the casual fan.
Natural Fighting League.
Hello, once again, Casual Fan Reporter here, checking in on the Displaced Diehards podcast, available through iTunes and Stitcher Radio. Or if you're like me and your cable provider decided to cut off your internet access for non-payment for, 3 months, then you can always quote-unquote borrow your neighbor's cable and watch the show every Saturday night on the Time Warner Cable, Channel 72 in Owensboro, Kentucky. The only thing I've been watching lately is my tough call matchup record, and whether or not I should warm up the noose I recently installed in the bedroom closet. But luckily for me, the Eagles from Philadelphia flexed those mighty patriotic wings last week and took care of those weak little Cardinals, allowing me, the Casual Fan Reporter, to get back in the saddle and ride towards the sunset with another victory under my belt. But my celebrations are short-lived, as I look forward to yet another ferocious battle on the NFL schedule. And ferocious it will be indeed, for my tough call matchup from the Week 14 schedule could totally change the landscape of the Native American culture forever. Of course, I'm talking about the Kansas City Chiefs traveling to the nation's capital to battle war-torn Redskins. Oh, dear Lord, what the hell has happened to the Native American people? Fighting amongst themselves, drawing spears and arrows upon each other in a gross and vulgar gridlock over control of Native American land that neither faction has any hope of ever controlling as long as the white man controls our government. It's such a sad state of affairs seeing once proud people who ruled the lands of this fine country drawing blood from one another. If these two groups were smart, they'd band together and go after someone who actually poses a threat to their way of life, like the damn Patriots. You know, those brothers in arms have hidden agendas against the Indians, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. As sad as this battle truly is, I still have to make a decision, and since the Chiefs were completely embarrassed last week, getting beat by a bunch of horses, I feel as if their warrior spirit is going to come out, and when it does, it's going to be pissed. And with that, I'm taking the Kansas City Chiefs to tomahawk chop the hell out of those Redskins from Washington. The leader of the Redskin tribe may be a third-generation figurehead, but damn it if he doesn't look like a catfish, and frankly, that scares the poo out of me. Let's face it, the Redskins couldn't intimidate a tumbleweed with a battle cry, a rifle, and a spotted horse, let alone stand up to another Indian tribe with way more victories in battle than them. I just hope the Chiefs forego the whole scalping thing when they're done. I like to eat buffalo wings when the battles are going on, and I get a little squeamish whenever blood and hair become a part of an equation. Besides, nobody wants to see a dreadlock pelt ripped from the head of a catfish. Ugh, makes my damn stomach turn. Anyway, this is the Casual Fan Reporter saying keep listening, keep watching, and above all else, if you're going to have a Native American witch doctor cast some voodoo spells, don't let him experiment with a dark-skinned tribe leader and a catfish. Later. You ever notice how the Redskin emblem looks like an Indian version of George Washington? I bet our first president got his hands on his fair share of Navajos.
Thank you, casual fan, for your breakdown on the National Fighting League. Since my co-host Stephen A. Turner stormed out in the diva tantrum, we had to bring in Patriots superfan Chris Couples. We call him Gimp. Bill Hardesty, super producer. He's a Titans fan. And then Stephen A.'s brother, Roger Turner, who's also a diehard Vikings fan. And we're going to break down some roundtable fantasy football discussion as the playoffs are starting in some leagues. There's guys that you got to go into the league or into the week knowing that you can trust and you can't trust. We're going to give you a running back you can trust and you can't trust, a wide receiver you can trust and can't trust, and then the wild card that you can trust and not trust going into the fantasy football playoffs. And to kick it off, we're going to start it off over here with Roger Turner. Who do you don't trust for running backs?
Oh, no trust?
No trust.
Whoa, excuse me there. My bench for this week for the running back for playoffs is I'm going to say Frank Gore as my choice. He's going up against that tough Seattle defense. Yeah, bench him. Don't start him this week.
I'm going with Ray Rice. I don't trust him. He's playing Minnesota, and crazy shit always happens in Minnesota games. And in a playoff fantasy football setting, I don't want to take the chances on crazy Minnesota shit going on with my lineup.
I'm going with Reggie Bush against that Philadelphia defense. I think Nick Foles is going to keep the defense off the field long enough, and I think that they're going to tough out Reggie Bush.
I like that one.
I'm going with Chris Johnson just because I'm a Titans fan. I figure I'd go ahead and hate on my own team a little bit just because, like you guys said in the show earlier, they just don't know how to use him. He's just not producing like he should, and if you there's other serviceable backs that you may be able to trade him off for that I think would play out better.
There's other backs that they're not trying to put Sean Green above on his own team.
Exactly.
It's mind-boggling.
Let's move on to the running backs you do trust. Raj, who you got?
My running back is MJD, as my brother earlier said.
Stephen A. Turner's going to love it when he hears this.
As he said earlier, the man's put up points. He's put up double-digit points in his past 5 games. I personally own him in the Corporate Monkeys League that came up earlier in y'all's segment. Yeah, start MJD. He's good to go, ready to rock.
I'm going with Reggie Bush that I'm starting, and I'm going against Gimp here. He said to sit him, but I think the Philly defense will shut down the Detroit run game. But what Reggie Bush excels in is screens out of the backfield, and we're horrible at covering those. So I think he'll pick up his points mainly on receiving yards and probably get a touchdown or two. So I'm going with Reggie Bush as the guy I trust to start.
Big time in PPR leagues.
I was going no surprise here with Ben Tate against Jacksonville. I thought he got his legs underneath him. He finally has those ribs healed. I think he'll be set for a good game. Maybe not 3 touchdowns, but a good game.
I'm going to go with an obvious pick and say Adrian Peterson.
It's my boy. Dr. Obvious checking in on this side of the table.
I was torn at the beginning of the year whether or not to even draft him. He was coming off of a surgery, and everybody was like, "Oh, he's going to be super great or super bad."
He's going for 2,500 was what he was saying at the beginning.
He's outscoring
MVP of the league last year.
Yeah, he's got more touchdowns than any other running back in the league right now, and he just keeps chugging along.
Just broke the 10,000 yard mark.
No question, the entire season. Start Adrian Peterson. Go ahead.
All day.
Keep doing it.
Wide receiver now, going to move it on to that position, and the guy I don't trust is Brandon Marshall in Chicago. Since McCown's came in and been the quarterback, he's lost more and more reps to Alshon Jeffries each and every week.
I've got Jordy Nelson as my wide receiver that I'm not big on. Until Aaron Rodgers is back, until it's somebody besides Tolzien or Lightning Arm Matt Flynn, I wouldn't start Nelson or hell, any Green Bay wide receiver for that matter.
Don't fear the Tolzien.
Jordy Nelson's been targeted a way higher percentage than a lot of other receivers. I feel like he has problems catching the ball, pulling them down.
It don't help whenever you're used to Aaron Rodgers dropping the ball in there.
He's used to those lasers from Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gimp, who you got?
I'm not going to start T.Y. Hilton. I'm not going to do it against that Cincinnati defense. They're coming off a win. You know, they're getting their feet back underneath them, and I just don't trust him. Not with Reggie Wayne off the field. Not with Andrew Luck.
Since he's had to carry the load with Reggie Wayne out, he hasn't been the same guy. Bill, who you got?
Dropping the load.
I was in the same boat with Roger. That's why I chimed in when he said Jordy Nelson, just because they target him a lot and he doesn't catch a lot of balls. He's got a low amount of touchdowns as far as how many times he has caught the ball. He just doesn't put up points as far as fantasy goes.
Indeed.
Now the wide receiver we do trust going into the fantasy playoffs. Raj, who you got?
I got Eric Decker. He's been my fantasy boy all year long. Him and Peyton Manning hook up in my 16-man league.
195 points from basically
Can't
those two.
beat
His team
it.
put up 195 in a 16-man league. That's ridiculous.
A lot of people look down on Decker. They think he's the low man on the totem pole there, but don't keep your eyes off of him. Start him this week if you got him.
And now watch this week. He'll go for like 3 receptions.
That's right,
36 yards. Because they'll key on Welker as their number 1 receiver this week. The guy that I trust going into it, once again, getting back to my Brendan Marshall, I'm trusting Alshon Jeffries because he's came into this team and taken over the number 1 receiver spot, especially with McCown out there. As much as Jay Cutler looks for Brendan Marshall, McCown looks for Jeffries.
And don't forget the fact that they give him the ball to rush on occasion. I think he's got over 100 yards rushing on 14 carries. I mean
always pick up those rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, it's an extra point, and he might steal a rushing touchdown on occasion.
I'm going to go with Julian Edelman this week. I know it's a little bit of a homer pick, but I think Hayden will be zeroed in on Gronk. I don't think they'll leave the middle of the field open for him. I think he'll make some hay.
Seems like he's taking over Amendola's spot.
Minitron.
Getting a lot of looks there. We're moving on now to the wild card section. The first guy that you do not trust in the wild card. This can be either tight end, defense, or quarterback.
My tight end, or my wild card, do not trust, is a tight end. Tony Gonzalez, I've drafted him. He's been a bust all season long.
As have the Falcons in general.
Who a lot of us picked to be, the Super Bowl contenders this year. And, I don't trust a single person on that team. I've benched every Falcon I have, aside from Steven Jackson, who I just don't have any other choice but to start. But, yeah, bench all your Falcons. They're terrible. The Count's already sleeping. Might as well go to sleep, too, on the Falcons.
Count's been walking in the sun since October this season. The guy I don't trust is Jordan Cameron. His numbers have went down just throughout the season. He started out just a top 5 tight end. As soon as Hoyer and Whedon started having their injury problems, Cameron has become non-assistant. And this week they're taking on New England, who, if you remember when they took on Jimmy Graham, held Jimmy Graham with no reception. So I'm not trusting Jordan Cameron in my playoff week.
I'm going to go a little bit of a surprise here. My wild card that I'm not going to trust is Scam Newton. I don't know if it's a little bit of hatred or not, but I think New Orleans is going to pick it back up. I don't see this team being out for long, and I can't see Scam Newton and the Carolina Panthers, keeping their winning streak out too much longer. So I think that they're going to get upset there.
I think the Panthers might actually lose the game, but I can't see Cam Newton not putting up a decent amount of points or respect.
Yeah, I think even if they do lose, I think it'll still end up being a shootout. I think Cam will get his.
Fully. As far as fantasy goes, don't pick anybody from the AFC South. If you have anybody on the AFC South, you should not be starting them. If you are, you must be in a really deep league.
Home of Bills Titans, of course.
Yeah, just stay away from that area.
Starting CJ2K this week.
Yeah, sometimes you don't have a choice. Maybe he'll put up 21. That's about as good as
maybe they'll figure out how to use him.
They'll figure out that equation of how to properly use CJ2K by
if you're gonna get 21 points off of CJ2K, it's going to be because he just happened to break a 85-yard touchdown.
Yep, exactly. I agree with that.
Yeah, mostly they come in one big run and then he's done for the rest of the game. They just stop playing him.
Hey, we can hope, right?
The wild card that
you can hope.
Moving on now to the wild card that we do trust. Raj, who do you got?
I got Andrew Luck. It might not be too extreme there, but he has been kind of funky in the past couple weeks, and I expect him to have a big game against Cincinnati this weekend.
Were you not listening? I just said nobody from the AFC South.
He totally ignored your advice.
I'm going against ill Bill Hardesty here, and I'm saying start Andrew Luck. Get him a go.
I got quarterback, just as you do. I got Phillip Rivers against New York Giants. The New York Giants defense is always horrible, and hopefully Phillip Rivers will be able to get Bean singing on the podcast next week.
San Diego
Superchargers.
Yeah. What?
Who you got, Gil?
My wild card for the week was actually the same as one of Rogers' is MJD. He threw a touchdown pass to Mercedes Lewis last week. Start the man.
Best quarterback in Jacksonville.
Right.
Whoop, whoop.
Caleb Hayne, get
That's a shot at you, Blaine Gabbert. Bill, who you got?
Absolutely must start is the Seattle defense. You can't factor out that noise that happens in that stadium.
Adderall.
Just because. That makes their defense 10 times better, not to mention the fact that they've just got the best corners in the league, in my personal opinion.
That's a very solid defense and a very solid prescription to Adderall.
Yeah, but as we heard earlier, they've got a direct line to Adderall in Seattle, apparently.
Now that noise is nothing. We had the discussion. It's nothing to deal with. I mean that's a game changer and all on its own.
Well, that's going to wrap up the fantasy roundtable portion of this program, where we gave you the trust and don't trust for your playoff week. Hopefully, we can help you get the win and move on to next week in the fantasy playoff. Going to kick it back to the studio now.
Yeah.
That's going to wrap up episode number 20 of the Displaced Diehards podcast. You can download a new episode of the podcast every Friday at displaceddiehards.com. You can follow us on Twitter at Diehards Podcast. You can like us on Facebook /Displaced Diehards. You can find us on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. Just search Displaced Diehards. You can listen to us every Monday at 6:30 p.m. on ESPN Radio 102.7 The Game. You can also watch Displaced Diehards Television Saturday 10 p.m. on Time Warner Cable Channel 72 in Owensboro. Yippee-ki-yay!
Skeeter picking. Displaced Diehards.
Displaced Diehards.
I am a displaced diehard.
I'm a displaced diehard.
We are Displaced Diehards.